Hello and welcome back to Factorio C Block. In our last episode, we started doing a plan for what we're going to do about all of these things we've been learning and what it's going to produce, and it's going to produce some gardens and or, depending on the way we want to balance it, some of the bio things that I can never remember the name of. Bio token things? The things used to make the bioscience. Where are those? They're in here someplace. Alien plant life sample. That's the thing. So we're going to be basically using this recipe here and the equivalent of this one to swap back and forth between the two, producing a slight amount of additional alien plant life samples or gardens in any combination that we so see fit. But in order to do that, of course, we have to figure out how big this build needs to be, and it's going to be quite big. So last time we have a build that's 8 farms. Actually, I scaled this down to 0.009 output because that gave us a nice, comfortable number of 8 farms and 50 seed extractors. I also, by the way, if you didn't notice in my inventory here, I have 62 temperate gardens, 25 swamp gardens, and 29 desert gardens. So I have, while not a good number, I have a decent number of them to get started on this once we can actually get this thing going. So we have all of that. And we have to figure this part out. Now, in the comments, Derpumu suggested that maybe this part would have been easier to be calculated with the matrix solver. No, it totally went berserk when I did it. I just did it off camera, and I can actually demonstrate it real quick because it goes berserk really fast. If we did just those 3 recipes again, plus these 3 recipes here again to get those first 6 lines, and even if I go in here and I set that I want to have 0.1 of this one and 0.1 of that one, just any number, it doesn't matter as long as it's the same, it already goes a little haywire here. And then if I switch it to matrix solver, it goes even more haywire. It wants to only use this first one here for some reason, not a balance of the 3, and the same then goes for this, because in order to balance it, because it wants to use only this first one, it doesn't use the balanced up here. So, and I tried it a couple different ways by doing the matrix solver first, then typing in the numbers, and whichever one I typed in first, it would just go berserk on it. So I'm going to delete that because that's kind of useless. But also I wanted to demonstrate one other thing before we got back into actually doing this calculation, and that is one other plan. And this is the kind of comparison of this plan here is producing the surplus of gardens. What if we wanted to produce the surplus of the other, the alien plant life samples? And if we did, I should have done them in the same order. That would have been smart. If I put them in the same order, and I swap the input-output like this, so that we're calculating or typing in how many of the outputs, of the input ingredients we want to have put in, which is 0.009, 0.009, and 0.009. If we wanted to get all of the, if we wanted to get these out of the system rather than the gardens, which is probably actually what we're going to do, then this is, if we had this much coming out of this plan over here, 0.009 of each, then that means that we could take them into this plan to tell us how many of an even amount we're going to get out, which is 0.864 per second. It means just slightly less than 1 alien plant life sample per second, which then if we come back to here, we know that we can produce about 1-to-1 alien plant, or exactly 1-to-1 alien plant life samples to optimize biome planners, which means that we'll be getting that many optimized biome planners out of this process once we're done with it. And that's really the end of the sort of calculation. I could have probably done this with this as the endpoint, but I think it would have been more complicated. And so I think this is easier to do it with these, maybe not, and come back to this number here as the as a secondary output for this whole project. And so we can jump back in now, I think, and figure out what where we need to pick up. Last time we also looked at which artificial fish or polluted artificial fish water was the best scenario for us, and we calculated it based on 40. Now we don't need 40, we only need 35.556, but it doesn't matter because the scale is the same, which means that if you only needed that much of that, you'd only need this much of that, you only need that much less of each of the other things too. So the ratio or whatever is the same regardless of what output number you've chosen here. We could have chosen this all to be 1, and then the numbers would have still been the same ratio. So let's go back into our plan here and figure out where we wanted to pick up with next. We need to deal with this sulfuric wastewater. We should probably deal with that sooner rather than later, maybe even right now. Let's click on that. Nope, I need to click on it here. There we go. And go into here, and we're going to deal with sulfuric wastewater. And that'll get us out some sulfur. It has to put it up here, though. Wait, that isn't right. That isn't right either. I need to have this be primary ingredient. Yeah, that's a problem. That's my output there. That's a problem. It's calculating it based off of this. Can I switch it to... No. I may have to force this a little bit. Yeah, I think I can force this. We'll push it into its separate calculation here. And we'll just make this be a flip. And it's 12 point... I just forgot the number already. 12.445. And then that'll tell us how much of those things we're going to get out. And I think that's the best way to handle this overall. And it's not a linked recipe, because if I do a linked recipe, then it blows it up again. So we don't want it to be a linked recipe. We just want it to take in the 12.445 and output these three things. Now, the sulfur itself is going to be a surplus. And really, honestly, we may have to change so that sulfuric wastewater is a surplus for some of the other things we've been working on. But we may have to change the way we're handling sulfur in the future anyway. So it may be a combination of the wastewater. It may be all wastewater surplus, and then we actually process it down into sulfur when we need it into sulfur. When we don't need the sulfur directly in the system, or any extra that we don't need to make sulfur in the local system. I'm not sure exactly how I want to handle this yet. But either way, this gives us that 2.489 of the 18 point whatever we needed here, 20 we needed here. So that takes a little bit of that away, but we're gonna have to make a little bit more of this. And I think now is the time. Maybe. Let's see. I know we want to make this out of crushed stone. And then, of course, we get the crushed stone from slag. Is the easiest way to get it straight. And then for slag, we want to do... Not that one. Wait, why is that even... Oh, that's because it's, yeah, searching for slag, and it's called slag slurry. That one, we want this recipe here. One of these two recipes here to get the slag. I don't feel like doing the loop with the use electrolyzer electrodes. So let's do this one, and that's going to give us a little bit of surplus oxygen and hydrogen as well, which we'll be able to use for something else. And then we need to do calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate, I think I want to push that into a separate sub-factory here. And then we need to make this out of this, and that out of those. And then the thermal water, we already figured that part out. That's lithium salt, which is made from brown algae, and that just needs a little bit of fuel also, which we're going to take care of. This also needs ammonia gas, which we already have set up as a separate factory, if assuming we were making enough of it. We don't know that answer to that question just yet. So then we have, let's see, what do we have next? That's just going to be a rounding issue, which is probably fine. I could probably fix it, but it's probably not worth it. Let's go ahead with hydrochloric acid then. That's going to be made, of course, here from hydrogen chloride gas and purified water. Hey, look, we have some purified water we can use. And then we need to make hydrogen chloride gas from chlorine and hydrogen. And then we need to make chlorine and hydrogen from electrolyzing saline water, which is good. And then we need a crap ton of saline water. That's a lot of saline. Why do I need so much saline there? I guess that's what I need. Never mind. Don't ask me. And then we're going to want to make the saline water from water here in the water purification plant. Because the only other way to make it is through the mud process. A lot of it, that is. We can do this if we had chloric wastewater coming out, which we don't. So we're going to do this method. And that's going to make a crap ton of, well, 3 1/3 hydro plants to make enough saline water for that, which needs 500 water. Hopefully we don't need, we need 600 so far of water. That's a lot of purified water, which is actually all surplus, almost all surplus. We need a little bit of it. We have a little bit there drawn. We have surplus here when we do the sulfur component, and I think that's it. So we need a little bit of it, but most of it's going to get dumped unless we need it for something else. Let's see, what else can we do to makes... What else do we need to make here? We need to make this artificial wastewater. I don't know if I need to put any of this stuff in separate factories, though. Maybe I should. Yeah, let's do a separate hydrochloric acid factory. I did control-click, and it takes all the rows below it with it and puts them into a separate factory. As long as those linked back out, which they seem to have, then we should be okay with it being in a separate factory. This makes that sodium hydroxide, which we looked at, which we can't really even use at this point. So that's kind of a bummer. Nutrient pulp we're going to bring in from the factory we have. Water, ammonia gas, brown algae, charcoal, fertilizer. That doesn't matter. So I think the last thing we have to make here is artificial fish water. And that's a simple recipe of water and saline. That means we need more saline. We need more saline. I think it's fair enough to put that into its own supply as well. And then, again, split the atom here with the saline and the purified water and have just a bunch of purified water left over again. This means we're dumping an awful lot of purified water, but it's basically just still water. So we're just taking the saline out of it. So I guess it's fine. I'm not sure where else we can pull the saline from, though. So I think this is just going to have to be the way it's going to have to be at this point. So what's coming out of this? The gardens, of course, some sulfur, a crap ton of purified water, a little bit of oxygen, and a little bit of hydrogen. Is there any way to reduce those numbers? No, because we need the slag to make the crushed stone to make the mineralized water that we need. So we're going to have that extra there. Can we use that to make anything? Well, we can make it into more purified water. So no. What else can we make oxygen and hydrogen into? Yeah, there's the purified water recipe. Doesn't look like anything we can make right now, so we're just gonna have to sink it, and I think the same, or flare it rather, and I think the same thing goes for you. Yeah, I mean, we could make more purified water. We could make more ammonia gas. That may be a trick, but that's fine if not. And then we have the sodium hydroxide that we can't really use. That's just going to get stashed into a box and forgotten about for quite a while until I remember it when I need it later, hopefully. Okay, and then the inputs, this one doesn't count. This is just a rounding issue. It's probably like 0.0005 or something less. Something less than that amount. It's just a rounding issue between this number here and that number there, since I had to hand type this one. Oh yeah, it is. No, it's not. I don't know. I don't know it's just a rounding issue though. Either way, rounding issue. Don't worry about it. We're getting fertilizer in that's coming from the nitrogen plant. We're getting nutrient pulp in that's coming from the processing of minerals here, or of plants here. Excuse me. Jeez, I didn't realize that was coming. 800 water into this thing. So that's almost a whole pump of water. 2/3. 10.667 ammonia gas. 10.667 brown algae. We might need more brown algae, which means we would need more saline. If we needed more brown algae, we'll have to figure out how much brown algae we're making, how much we're using elsewhere, etc., and then figure it out from there. If we need more saline to make more, we can make more. What we should potentially do is here, where we're making it now, and I added another one of these because I knew we would need more, is to, and we could actually, you know what we could do? We could click this. We could add the brown algae there, and that means I need 8 of those. So I am only making half of what I need, assuming that I'm even making enough there, which I'm probably not. We could take this saline water elsewhere. I have it already being put down this way, so I could continue this pipe maybe down into this area and make a crap ton down there, and then we wouldn't have to sink this like we're doing now. I'm not sure how much we're making out of this. Do we know how much we're making saline water in this mud thing? Where's my mud recipe? That's here. We're sinking almost 400 saline water per second, 359. And this needed, I don't know why I closed it, this needed here 26. That's assuming we're using all that mud, but I mean, we're sinking it all into muddy water anyways, so, or into landfill anyway. So I think what we could do is just do that. Continue this pipe down, set up some of these down there, like 8 of them dedicated, and just do that. And then if it still needs to overflow, it still needs to overflow and do that. But we can make some down here because we're going to move these fish anyway. This was just another sample build. So I think that's the way to handle that. So let's actually leave that into the plan because we're going to need that to be a separate factory here in the plan. And really, I could take some of the saline also from all of that other stuff, all the surplus saline, and feed it into this system here, feed it into this system here, and then I wouldn't need to make so much. We could do it as a we could set the thing up to make it, but we could do it as a priority so that this gets used first, and then it gets sent down to, and then we use what's made locally in this build for that. So let's do that too, because that means less water used, which means less power used, which is a good thing in C block. And let's see, nutrient pulp. That much nutrient pulp. How much are we making? We're making 56. So this is like 10% of that. That's no big deal. I mean, even though we are using some of it for other things in this area, we're not using that much of it. And furthermore, a lot of this stuff was demonstrative builds anyway. The only thing we're really using a significant amount of is plastic. And that's insignificant, even though it's a significant amount. Water's fine. Ammonia gas, though. Ammonia gas, I think we want to take a look at again, because I don't know that we're producing 10 point whatever that is of ammonia gas. Oh, we are. We're producing 35 surplus ammonia gas. Okay, and what about 0.75 fertilizer? We need a little bit more fertilizer. All right, I was afraid of that. So let's do, let's just do the 0.8 though. Well, actually, wait a minute. Let's take a look at FNAI and fertilizer and usage. And what else is this used for besides, that's recycling, alienated fertilizer? This one, that one, and this one that we talked about last time that are the ways to make the tree seeds that we're probably not going to do, at least not for a while. That one too, for that matter. And then these ones here, there are also ways to make the make tree seeds. Here we can make some of the other vegetables much later. This technology is blue science, so we got a little ways to go on that one. And then these are all going to be that type of thing. Bio rubber, plastic, and resin from the trees then. And then making trees a couple of different ways. So yeah, for the most part, this fertilizer we're making here is all we're going to need. So let's take that up to 0.8, which means, of course, that we need to have a little bit more draw here. You saw a couple of the other numbers change. We don't actually need urea gas, though. Let's take a look at that. Do we need urea for anything other than fertilizer? Liquid resin. Oh, yes, we are using a little bit of it for liquid resin. Or no, we aren't yet, but we could be. We aren't using it yet. So I should leave that. Maybe not with this much surplus, though. If we take the urea gas down a little bit, let's see, divided by 1.105. Did I mistype that? Let's go with 52. Oh, not 552, just 54. Wow, Wally. Yeah, 54 is what we want there. That gets us still at 1. This is still at 1. That goes up a little bit, but that's okay. Let me do this. Pin. What do we have comparing this to that? Oh, I don't have to be out zoomed into that anymore. We have, over here, Wally. One of you, one of you, one of you. 0.35 of this. One of these. 1.17 of these. One of those. 0.39 of these, 2.63 of these, and 0.27 of these. Okay, so this is still fine. We should belt the, you know, the ores in here for the catalysts, but other than that, we're fine on this. We just need to have one more output here, which is easy enough to build and add into the system. And then, yeah, we were making brown algae into fertilizer too, so we'll want to tweak that some. Actually, we're not yet because I dumped a bunch of wood in there before I let it go. So we'll add a little bit to that, but this is still an okay build. It's not gonna underrun us at all on this system, and so I think we're ready to go on this. So we'll start building it next time. As you can see, there's a lot to make, a lot of factories to make. Especially these, 150 of these is going to take me a while to make. I'm going to try to get all this handcrafted, all these buildings handcrafted, and ready to go for the next episode, and then we can start figuring out a layout. I kind of envision this as like 4 or 5, at least 4 or 5, maybe depending on how you look at it, different factories. The first one being the 24 farms, the next one being the 150 seed extractors, and then some combination of the rest, and then one for the fish being another one, and then some combination from there of everything else, depending on how you want to count it as being one or more factories. I mean, I did break it up into units here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be broken up into those specific units as completely isolated factories. They can be kind of next to each other or integrated to each other. But the idea would be, of course, to have that be somewhat adjacent to each other so that we can understand, or so we can link things together, because they do pass things back and forth, and then also to have it be kind of a supporting factory for the other sort of 3 big factory areas. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure at this point, but we'll see how it plays out, and we'll take us. I think it's going to take us at least a couple of episodes to build this, and then from there it's going to have to obviously spin up, because we're going to be working on this. It's going to have to, you know, make all of the gardens we don't already have, and start outputting the samples that we need or that we want to get out of this system eventually. So once we get that kind of built and going, then we'll see how that kind of plays out in the long term. But for now, we'll leave this here, and in the next episode, we'll start building. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.